Welcome to day 2 of the Writing Your Novel in a Month series. Yesterday we talked about writing your storyline, your basic storyline, and creating a blurb or synopsis of that storyline. Today we're going to dig a little deeper into your story by talking about uh, your protagonist. Okay. And during the next 3 days, we're going to be focusing on this deep dive. Um, Tomorrow we'll learn about our protagonist's past, and the next day we'll put our protagonist at the beginning of the story. So right now we're going to figure out who your protagonist is today, who he is at the beginning of the story. Um, Crafting a believable protagonist is one of the most critical aspects of writing a story. When you we're going to have a bunch of questions. I'm going to share a bunch of questions in this um, in the comments below, and from those questions, you're going to answer them in your character Bible, and then transfer them into your book, wherever in the beginning of the book. Okay. Um, Don't worry about editing or figuring out how it fits in right now. Just kind of write it and put it in there, okay? Um, Questions that we're going to be asking today are: what's your protagonist's name? When's his birthday? How old is he at the beginning of the story? How old is he at the end? Um, this will help. This helps in, like, if you're doing a series. This really helps because that lets you know. Having the birthday lets you know when the character was born, so that you can figure out exactly in future books how old he is at any certain point. Okay, so does this character have a nickname? For instance, my character, his name's Joseph, and he likes to go by Joseph, but other people call him Joe. So, um, what is his height? What is his hair color? What is his eye color? These are all basic things you want to know about him. Does he have any markings or scars? Or does he develop any during the story? Those are things that you want to add to your. Does he have any siblings? Who are his siblings? Like Joe is the youngest of 5 boys in the family. Um, what's his sexual orientation? You may or may not want to include that. It's up to you. Um, what's his nationality? Joe's nationality is English and Scottish. Where does he live? He lives in northwestern Pennsylvania. He grew up there in the in the late 1700s, early 1800s. Okay. Um, what is his aspirations and ambitions? Um, he wants to make a name for himself. Okay, he's at that age. He's 17 years old at the beginning of this story. You might want to write down what is his personality type. Um, I don't have his personality type specifically figured out, and you may not want to either. I don't. It's up to you. But it's one way of digging deeper into what this character, and what is his hobbies. Joe doesn't really have any hobbies at this point. He's just kind of does he do drugs or drink alcohol? Um, Joe does not. What's his clothing style? Well, you know, this is really important for helping set the time, your story time. For instance, um, you know, Joe is from a frontier town, so he's going to dress like a frontier boy. Okay, and he's going into a small town, so that a lot of people there might be dressed more um, contemporary of their time. Um, better dressed, kind of thing. Um, What's his confidence level? Well, he's a young boy and he's going into a situation that's different than he's used to, so he might be a little apprehensive about dealing with this. What is his daily routines? These are things that I mean, like he had been at the beginning of the story. He had been doing, the chores around the house. He was the youngest son, so he was doing things like chopping wood, bringing in water, helping in the fields, that kind of thing. He really hadn't developed into anybody important or specific. So he's kind of a everyday boy of that era. What's his favorite food? Joe's favorite food is his mom's venison roast. Um, what are his flaws? Well, we'll get more into those as time goes on. Like I said, he's just a young boy, and he's just kind of trying to figure his way around things. So, what are his talents? What kind of talents does he have? Um, he's just, like I said, he's just at the beginning of the story. He's just kind of an ordinary boy. What annoys him? What annoys him is his brothers, his older brothers. They've always been they. His issues are primarily that he's the youngest son of a large family of boys, and they've all made names for themselves. Several of them are married, and he wants to do something different, something on his own that makes him unique. Um, what excites him? Um, what excites him is the idea that he's going to be well, at the beginning of the story, he's going to be going to a new town, and they're going to be building ships, and he wants to have the opportunity of going on that ship and becoming a sailor, making a name for himself. Does he have any secret powers or abilities? No. Who are his closest friends? Um, at this point, he lives in his closest friends are his family. What's his darkest secret? At this point, he doesn't have one. Does he have any? And there's more questions that go on, but some of these you'll develop later. Does he have physical strength? Yeah, he has physical strength. He's been growing up as a pioneer boy for all of his life. Um, does he have any past traumas? He lost his sister early on. How does that affect him? Well, his mother took it really hard. So we'll find out more about how we'll discuss go into that a little deeper later. His family relationships, like I said, he's the youngest of um, five boys. Um, what's his favorite places to be? We'll go into more of those later. It's helpful to visualize your character in his everyday mundane situations at this point. How does he react to others? What habits or quirks do they exhibit? What do they cherish or avoid? Like I said, he was with his family at the beginning. Um, Now you want to include a lot of this before your first chapter, but you want to include some of it in your first chapter. But we'll go in more into um, so you want to put what you can into your story and leave out what you can't put into it just right now. And it's okay. You don't have to do that. Um, at this point, you can add them as you go along. Establish your protagonist's voice and his perspective. That's what this is all about. You're finding out who he is and what he wants out of life. Um, One of my favorite ways of getting to know a character is to interview him. I, I like to interview every character, especially this protagonist. And then as the story goes on, I like to interview the protagonist about his feelings about other people that he meets during the story. Um, this way, you get a more in depth idea of who this character is. Okay, in interviewing your characters, your your protagonist, the main character of your story, you here's some questions you can ask him. How do you feel about how this book is going? What do you like most about the place in your life at the beginning of this story? What is your most what do you like most about your life? What do you like least about your life? These are questions you can ask him, and and wait for the answers. I mean, it's gonna. I know it sounds weird, and I'm not the only one I know that's ever done this, but make sure that you get to know your. Today's the day to get to know your protagonist and put what information you can into your um, character Bible and in your story as well. Just build up that character, get to know him, write about him, get the feel of who he is. That's your goal for today. And enjoy the day and enjoy writing. Till tomorrow.